Welcome one and all, I'm Alexis, aka The Sloth Reader, and I'm here today to talk about my most anticipated YA releases from May to August 2018. So there are a lot of these that I marked as want to read on Goodreads, which is where I find my list. So I'm gonna probably not spend too much time talking about any one of them because there's a lot of them. So starting out on May 1st, the first book I have is The Smoke Thieves by Sally Green. I haven't read anything by Sally Green, but I know her other series was really well loved when it came out. And I know that this is like piratey, and it's got like, it's like a found family aspect where like everybody comes from like different things and then they come together to form like a group. And I'm all about that, so I am probably going to be picking this one up. On May 3rd is I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman, and this follows like a band, and it's about like their individual struggles but also like their struggles as a band together who are really popular, and I believe the lead singer in the band is trans. Up next on May 8th is Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson, and this follows a pair of best friends who are Wiccan, I believe, and one night the main character's best friend dies, and so the main character basically goes through a ritual that brings her best friend and these two other girls back from the dead, and together they like go on a quest of revenge, I think, to avenge like how these girls died, and it just sounds super freaking cool. I love the cover, and a bunch of my friends who've gotten ARCs have really liked it. The first book on May 15th is Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake, and this is a book that deals heavily with rape culture. The main character's best friend actually accuses her main character's brother of raping her, and so the main character basically has to deal with her conflicted feelings about her family and her friend and rape culture in society in general. A lot of my friends who have gotten ARCs of this one have 5-starred it, so I know it's going to be a very powerful, very needed book, and I'm very, very excited to check it out when it releases. The next book that releases on May 15th is My So-Called Bollywood Life by Nisha Sharma, and this basically follows our main character, Winnie, who has always believed in a prophecy that said she would meet her soulmate by which time she turned 18, and so she's been dating this boy for 3 years, and she comes back from summer camp to realize that her boyfriend has cheated on her, and he's also taken like control of like the film study group at their campus, and so Winnie kind of teams up with this like geeky boy, and together they like create a film, I guess, that like helps her reclaim her spot in the community. And this sounds really cool. You guys know I love books that are about film, and I'm assuming this book is going to have a very large Bollywood aspect to it, but I'm really excited for this one. Another one releasing on May 15th is Onyx and Ivory by Mindy Arnett, and this basically follows our main character Kate, who is considered a traitor in her kingdom because her father once tried to assassinate the king, and she is basically chosen to be a part of Relay, which is like a courier service that's like a very high-held position, and she has to go on an expedition with like the crown prince, and like shenanigans ensue. This one sounds really cool. I know it's a very large fantasy book. I think it's like 500 and something pages, but the cover is real nice. The last thing releasing on May 15th is, of course, War Storm by Victoria Aveyard. This is the fourth and final book in the Red Queen saga. Very, very much, for most people, a very anticipated finale. I haven't finished King's Cage yet, so I don't really have any feelings. I don't really know what this technically book is about, but it's the finale. On May 22nd is From Twinkle with a Love by Sandhya Menon, and this is another one that's very much about film. Our main character, Twinkle, writes letters to all of her favorite female directors, and through these letters she's like chronicling her high school experience and her first love, and all I had to know was that the main character was obsessed with film, and I loved the cover, and I was sold. On May 22nd is The Brightsiders by Jen Wild, and this follows our main character Emmy, who is the drummer in an incredibly popular band, and she basically has to deal with family and love and coming out and scandal and music, of course, and she's also falling in love with one of the other band members in her group, Alfie. Don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% sure, but I think on Twitter Jen Wild said either the main character or the love interest was non-binary. On May 22nd is a book I have already read, but I want to make sure you guys all know to pick it up, and that is Fury Born by Claire Legrand. This is the first book in the Imperium trilogy. It comes out on May 22nd, and this basically follows two characters who live 1,000 years apart, one of which is the savior of this world, one of which is the queen that will doom the world, and you're basically following their stories alternating as you're trying to figure out which queen is which and what's going on and what has occurred in these 1,000 years to change their worlds so much. And I really enjoyed this, gave it 5 stars. You guys should all check it out. And finally on May 29th is Lifelike by Jake Kristoff. I honestly don't know what the plot of this is. I just know that when it was pitched as like all of my favorite things. Like, it was pitched with Mad Max references, I think it was pitched with Pacific Rim references, and so I was like, sold, I'm done. I don't need to know anything else. I literally haven't read the synopsis for this book, but I'm gonna buy it anyway. But also a couple of my friends who have gotten advanced reader copies really loved it. Like, Melanie gave it 5 stars, and she was like, you'll love this book. And I was like, okay, I trust you. So there's that. Heading into June, the first book I have to mention, it comes out on June 5th, and it is Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno, and this basically follows our main character Georgina, who lives on an island with her family and the rest of this community, and the women in her family all have magical abilities. And so Georgina's just getting her magic, and she's learning to explore what her magic can do and the limits of her magic. And basically this takes place over the course of the last summer before Georgina is supposed to leave the island. And it follows a mystery and suspicion regarding her family. It also follows like her first love experience. And yeah, I really like the cover. This sounds really intriguing, so this one comes out on June 5th. The next book coming out on June 5th is Save the Day by Morgan Matson, and this basically follows our main character whose large family is all congregating for a wedding, and she's basically having to deal with like the craziness that ensues at this wedding over the course of like 24 hours. I love anything that has to do with like wedding planning, not so much like weddings in general. I just love wedding planning, so this book sounds right up my alley. I've only ever read one other Morgan Matson book, and it was okay, but I definitely want to give this one a try. Coming out on the 12th of June is A Reaper at the Gates by Saba Tahir. This is the 3rd book in the Ember and the Ashes series. Obviously a very, very well anticipated sequel. I'm currently reading A Torch Against the Night right now, so I'm super hyped to pick this one up when it comes out in June. Coming out on June 19th is Not the Girls You're Looking For by Amina May Safi. And this basically follows our main character who thinks she's got her life all together, and then a couple of sequence of events happens. She causes a scene at Ramadan, she's got boy troubles, and it's basically about her trying to do damage control on all of the things that she's done recently to try and get her life back on track. This is another one that I love the cover of. This is so pretty. The like red and then the profile, it just works really well. And I'm just really excited for a lot more diverse contemporaries like this, so I'm very excited to pick this one up. The last book in June is 1,000 Beginnings and Endings. It's an anthology edited by Ellen O, coming out on June 26th. And this is basically an entire anthology that does retellings of South and East Asian mythology, and it's all South and East Asian authors that are being a part of it, and it sounds so freaking cool. Moving into July, the first book I'm going to mention is actually already out in the UK, I believe, but this is the American release date, and it is The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. This comes out on July 3rd, and this basically follows a girl who I think is the only person awake and or alive on a spaceship in space, and stuff ensues. I've heard that it's pretty creepy. Personally, I'm gonna wait for the US release because I love the US cover, but I've heard a bunch of people who read the UK copy really love this, so I'm excited. Coming out on July 17th is a book that I do have an art for, and that is Whole Meadow Girls by Emily Skretsky. And this is a female-female romance book that takes place on like a space battleship, and so it basically follows the two main characters who are like enhanced super soldiers as they're competing to be like the top person in their like fleet academy, and it sounds super cool. I love space, and space military space is like is that a subset of genre? I really like that. And I haven't read Emily Skretzky's other stuff, but I know a lot of people really love her other stuff, so I'm excited. Coming out on July 24th is Contagion by Erin Bowman. And this basically follows a group of people on a spaceship that I think gets overrun with like a disease. I'm not 100% sure. I pretty much immediately said I wanted to read this because I really love Erin Bowman's other work, and this sounds really up my alley because space horror is like my favorite. So I'm very excited for this. And lastly in July is Heart of Thorns by Brie Barton, and this comes out on July 31st. And this basically follows our main character who has sworn her life to hunting down these dark witches. And one day her father basically weds her to the prince of this kingdom. And after this marriage goes horribly wrong, the main character discovers that she actually has the very kind of power she's been hunting down all these years. It sounds intriguing and I like the cover. So, that's the only reason I need to add a book to my TBR apparently. Moving on to August, the first book that comes out on my list is Catwoman Soul Stealer by Sarah J. Maas, and this comes out on August 7th. I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna buy it, and I'm gonna read it, and you know what? I love my girl Selena Kyle too much not to read this. You know, and I have the Leigh Bardugo one, I have the Marie Lu one. I might as well pick up the Sarah J. Maas one. She just better not do my girl Selena dirty. That's all I'm saying. Also coming out on August 7th is These Rebel Waves by Sarah Rosh. And I'm gonna be honest, the only thing I know about this one is that it's queer pirates. That's all I needed to know to be sold, to be honest. So, look up a real synopsis, because I didn't. Also coming out on August 7th is 9. And this is a story that basically follows a world where people have 9 lives. Like every person has 9 lives, like a cat. And our main character, I think, suddenly goes through a bunch of his lives quickly, but he like doesn't know why, I think, is what the premise is. I don't know, I'm a little iffy on some of these later releases, I apologize, but I know this is about a world where people have 9 lives. Also coming out in August is The Truth Lies Here, and this comes out on August 21st, and this is basically about our main character who has to team up with a boy from her school when her father goes missing, and basically her father is like a conspiracy theorist, and basically along the way like a bunch of conspiracy theories like start to show up. Basically this sounds like an X-Files book. And I was like, cool, I'm into it. Coming out on August 28th is Mirage by Samaya Daoud, and this is a Moroccan-inspired fantasy, I believe, that follows our main character Amani, who is like a dreamer. She has all of these grand plans for her life, and one day she is actually arrested by this kingdom's regime, and she is taken to the palace, and she discovers that she is almost an exact look-alike for the princess of this kingdom, and so she is basically put into a role where she has to publicly appear as the princess in order to basically take a bullet for this princess if she shows up. And yeah, this sounds really fascinating, and I'm really hyped for like a Moroccan-inspired fantasy. That sounds super cool. This cover is beautiful, and I'm really excited. Also coming out on August 28th is Seafire by Natalie C. Parker, and this basically follows our main character, Celadonia, who is the head of an all-female pirate crew, and she's basically trying to seek out the crew that murdered her family and take revenge. And one day when her best friend and second in command is actually saved from an incident by a like enemy pirateer looking to defect, she like questions whether or not she can let this man join her all-female pirate crew. It sounds super cool, and Natalie C. Parker wrote a story I really liked in the 3 Sides of a Heart anthology, so I definitely want to check this one out. Alrighty guys, those are all of my most anticipated 2018 releases from May to August. Please let me know what your most anticipated release of the next couple of months is. If you like what I do, I upload videos on Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, and I'll see you guys soon with another one. Bye!